Chino Hills State Park. Nestled in the rolling hills of inland Orange County between the butt cheeks of Los Angeles and San Diego, Chino Hills State Park features miles of green vistas, wildflower blooms, and the occasional hookup. So join me, won't you? Let's go hiking and even camping a little at Chino Hills State Park. Well, hello. Today is September 3rd. That's my car horn. It's 7:30 in the morning and it is 67 degrees and I am probably way too tired to go for a hike. So come with me, why don't you? Today, as I mess with everything, today is the first day of the hiking season. I say hiking season because normally I don't hike during the summer months when it's the hottest, because it's the hottest. Today, and for the remainder of this video, I believe, I will be at Chino Hills State Park in Chino Hills. Like I said, I'm a bit tired, so I'm doing a short hike today, just to kind of get my land legs, I guess. You see, I went for a hike very recently, 2 days ago, in fact. 3 days ago. Wow, it was 3 days ago? Anyway, went for a hike 3 days ago in Malibu Canyon to the set of, of the site of where they used to film MASH. The temperatures there were somewhere between 90 and 95, if I am to believe the two people I passed that had thermometers attached to their backpacks. Something I need to get. By the way, I'm going up there, so I promise you, I'm going to be panting real soon. 5-mile hike, a lot of exposed hiking, and as a result, I got a little bit of sun, I don't know, certainly not sunstroke, but sun exposure, sun poisoning, sun stabbing me in the back. Call it what you will. So the past couple days, I have been very inclined towards just lying around. Today is no different. But I wanted to start this year's hiking season early. I usually, or at least in the past few years, wow, it's really pretty this morning. I'm stopping myself in mid-sentence, and I apologize for that. I sometimes change thoughts midstream. I wanted to let you know that this is I feel this is kind of a reboot of my hiking videos. I'm not calling myself the world's worst backpacker anymore. I'm tired. So I thought I'd give a little background before going on about the hiking season. You see, I've loved hiking my whole life, but I haven't really had the chance as much as I would like. And so through my 20s and 30s, I tried to find people that would like to go hiking, and I never could, because most people think, and somewhat rightly so, yes, I'm messing with my trekking poles. Some people think that hiking is a great big pain in the ass, and that it's disgusting and
We've evolved past this point, so why do it? And to those people I say phooey. But could never find people to hike with me. 20s, 30s, 40s, nobody would go. The only people who would go were the women I was with at the time. Guys are pussies, what can I tell you? So I would hike with my ex-wife, and then various girlfriends. Even Vicky and I have hiked on occasion. But a year or so ago, she hurt her foot. And before that, she hurt her back. So it's not really her thing. Yeah. Still climbing. It's a dreary, gloomy, kind of muggy morning. I'm so glad to be back out here. So, where was I? 30s, 40s, no hiking. I got into my late 40s, and I said, if nobody's going hiking with me, I'll hike by myself, because I really wanted to hike. So, I started going on little hikes here and there. But I would only go when the temperatures were just right, 60s and 70s. No hot weather, no cold weather. And then I got a little more daring. You know, low 60s, upper 70s, ooh. And then at a certain point, sometime before my 50th birthday, I thought I would like to try hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. So I started going on hikes to try and get myself ready for such an adventure. Now, the first year I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, I kind of had it in my mind that I didn't want to hike until I was on the Pacific Crest Trail. Because I had heard of so many people who didn't get themselves in any kind of shape. They just bought a sleeping bag and a backpack, hello bunny, and they went a-hiking. Well, guess what? I found out that is not me. Not only am I a homebody, not only do I absolutely love my home and my life in my home, which is where I work, which is where I write, kenlasall.com. But I was out of shape. I was not in the right mental state of mind. So when I reached the Pacific Crest Trail, the end result was, well, the video that so far on this channel has gotten the most views. It was a mess. It was kind of a catastrophe. And I got back off the trail, called my wife, and said I will never, ever, ever do that again. Cue the following year. I know it's rather barren and empty. But it's easy to reach from home. And that first year, or I should say that second year, I decided to take on more hikes. And I started doing hikes across that valley, the hills on the other side. And the hikes weren't, well, they were challenging, but they weren't challenging to the same degree as the Pacific Crest Trail. And I'm just talking about that first 20 miles. that is tough. And so I learned the second year that not only had I not prepared enough, but that whole thing about not being able to sleep was a thing. I mean, the first year I didn't sleep, but I thought that was because I was so freaked out by screwing up so royally. And other reasons as well. But then the second year came and went, and I hiked from Campo to Lake Marina, and I hiked from Scissors Crossing to Warner Springs. And that's all I did. And I was disappointed, as you probably can tell. So, last year, I kind of knuckled down. I said, I'm going to embrace the suck. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to solve this sleeping problem I have. And by the end of April of this year, I did all of those things. I did a lot more difficult hikes. I found a solution to my sleeping problem. Turned out it was all solved by an inflatable mattress, which I now love very deeply and profoundly. Flat ground. I'm so happy I'm on flat ground. When I normally record myself hiking, I'll normally talk for a little bit and turn the camera around so you can see it. But I thought this time, since it is, after all, the first hike of the season, I would give you a little bit more of me, because God knows you can't wait to see me. In case you're wondering, yes, I still have that cut on my lip. I actually did a number on it the other day and opened it back up again. It was a big mistake. I was in a restaurant. Oh, it wasn't pretty. Anyway, so why is this the beginning of the hiking season now? Well, I found out firsthand, first foot, first head, first body, just 3 days ago, why I need to hike in warmer conditions and colder conditions and other conditions. Oh, we're getting to like a vista point. I'm taking a new way on this trail. I normally used to go the other direction last year. This year I'm trying a different one. I'm sure at one time this was some kind of sign saying what we were looking at, but somebody decided it was better purposed as an easel. So what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at Yorba Linda, Fullerton, more Yorba Linda that way, Fullerton, Brea, Anaheim, Placentia, a bunch of Orange County. We're still on the same section of trail. Right now we're heading kind of west towards that part of the park. And I had to stop and get a drink of water. Now normally I have a system for carrying water, making it easy to access my water. Now I swore off water bags, water sacks, whatever you want to call them, for your backpack. I swore off those a few years ago when hiking up by Big Bear. I had a water bag pop. Well, it sprung a leak, but it was enough of a leak that it was ugly. So after that, I switched to smart water bottles, mostly because my Sawyer Squeeze fits right on top and does a great job filtering my water. But the problem was that all my water bottles were in my backpack. So what I started doing is I started putting them in the side pocket of my pants. Now I normally will always wear the same thing when I hike. I have a couple sets of clothes, a little bit of hiking clothing, and I just wear it whenever I hike. Because one, it's good for hiking, and two, I think when I do these videos, it just kind of makes more sense to look as much the same as possible. So I kind of settle on one hat, and I wear the same gloves and the same shirt. And I normally wear long pants because I am not a big fan of biting flies, which we have a bit of, or other pesky things that can hurt your legs. Except today. Today I am wearing shorts, and instead of putting the water in the side pocket of my pants, I put it in the side pocket of my shorts. Can you throw the picture up? So this is me right now, and the pocket is rather large. So the water bottle is kind of flippity floppity 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 down there. So I am not making any time. But that doesn't bother me because, for one, this is a short hike, so I really don't need to rush. And two, I don't want to lose my water bottle. I figure as the bottle gets more and more empty, it should settle into that pocket. You know, as the weight drops to the bottom of the bottle more. Here's one of my biggest fears about the Pacific Crest Trail. Now that I've been on it at least a little bit, I know that I don't really have to worry about wild animals. There's just not that many of them. I mean, sure, you see your share of snakes, but even then, it's not that bad. So wild animals, while that might have been a fear of mine at the beginning, isn't really so much anymore. My number one fear right now is running out of water. Because water is dicey here in Southern California. You just never know if you're gonna get rain or if you're just not gonna get any rain. That's kind of the dilemma this year, because as you might know, if you know anything about the Pacific Crest Trail in the last couple of years, 2 years ago we had lots of rain, more than we could use, and the Sierra Nevadas became dicey. Last year wasn't as bad. As a matter of fact, not last year, this year. Sorry, 2018. As a matter of fact, in 2018, it was so hot that in Southern California, a lot of water sources kind of dried up. So, you have to look, you know, you have to be ready, and you have to do those water carries. And it's not the weight of the water that worries me. It's getting to the next stop and not finding any. I never hear about that happening, though. I've never watched a YouTube video of a PCT hiker who stops somewhere, can't find water, and says, "I've been without water for 3 days and now I'm going to die." Never happens. And really, you know, statistically, it really should. And maybe it does, and they just don't air those videos. I don't know. I mean, after they find a phone on a skeleton, it's probably not the first thing you do to upload those videos. But I like to think it doesn't happen all that often and that my fear is rather unfounded. I like to think so. So we're getting to some roller coasters. That's what I call roller coasters, when it just goes up and down and up and down. Like being on a roller coaster. But walking it. Why would anyone walk a roller coaster? But oh well. Okay, I've reached my first turn. There should be 4 turns on this hike. So I'm hiking more of a square than a loop, but you know, in the end it's loop-ish. So the other trail goes up that way. This is going down into the canyon, which is something I'll have to climb back up on the other side. Good morning. Always try to be friendly on the trail, say hi, give a smile, offer help where you can. I mean, we're all brothers and sisters out here, right? I realized that when I showed you the water in my pocket, that's a weird way to put it, the way I make it easy to access my water, I didn't ask you. How do you make your water easy to access? Good morning. I've seen some people who have like a thing that attaches onto their backpack strap. I don't know what it is and I haven't seen it. But maybe someone out there can give me a little insight. Morning, guys.
Morning.
Cyclists. There are times when I really think about taking some music, but I never do when I hike. Good morning. Morning. I never do when I hike because, for one thing, I want to be able to hear those rattlesnakes from as far away as I can manage. So I think any hiker that has headphones, earbuds, whatever, is shortchanging themselves, also cheating themselves out of the experience. I mean, when else do we get silence? When else are we not bombarded? And before I get to that point, let me officially ask the question, how do you make your water easy to access when you backpack or hike? I'd love to know. Any ideas you got, throw them at me. But you know, I was thinking as I drove here, I was thinking about what should I talk about on this video, as it is kind of a reboot in a way, in a sense, of my hiking videos. I thought, what could I talk about? And I thought I should talk about why I love hiking, because I don't think I really talk about that much. I talk about how hard it is. And it is, not kidding you. I talk about how miserable it can be at times, and it can be. I promise you that. But where else can you go and hear the wind? Where else can you go and, as I was saying, not be bombarded by media, but at the same time, you know, talk into a camera, talk into a phone? Where else can you go and do that? Well, okay, anywhere, but I don't know, when you're hiking, it takes you out of all the bullshit, and it simplifies things. I mean, how much more simple can it get than walking? Some of us have been doing that since 14, 15, 20 years old. All you got to do is walk. But it's really hard. And the great thing is it doesn't separate the men from the boys, so to speak. But it tells you about yourself. You learn who you are on the trail. And believe me, I've learned who I am. And there have been times when I have not been too cool with who I turned out to be. And the great thing about life is you can change that. In my case, I started out 5 years ago or so, being really not just timid. I've been far too timid when I hike. I will give you that. But also too afraid. There's so much nonsense talked about hiking, about the threats and the dangers. And I'd say 99% of it is overblown. Even as I have my own fears that still bug me. Most of them are not fears of the outside world, but insecurities about my own ability to perform. And only by hiking and backpacking can I... Oh, I hear a bike coming around the corner. Yeah, they zip by pretty quick. Anyway, it's only by hiking and backpacking that I get comfortable enough with it that I can overcome those fears and insecurities like being run over by a bike. You hear that bell coming. Anyway, there's something about hiking that I absolutely adore. And I won't kid you, there's something about it that I absolutely hate too. Like right now, I'm just thinking, my wife is probably still in bed. Lucky her. Yeah, I would never see any of this had I not gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But that's okay. I don't mind getting up that early, that much. Down to the next turn now. Down to what they call Telegraph Road, Telegraph Trail. What is it? Here's the sign. It just says Telegraph. So this park is high on either side, low in the middle. Where we just were, in the trail that I normally take, is the South Ridge. The North Ridge is on the other side. Down the middle runs Telegraph. And I've never taken it because I thought it made more sense to take the higher part. And of course it does. Unless you really want to see the park. You know, I was only experiencing it from up there. So I thought it might be nice to take a hike down here on Telegraph, where there are a few trees, which is a nice change. I can see how this might be nice when it's hot. Let's see. What do you like most about hiking? What gets you hiking? What's the thing that makes you have to get out and walk on? Well, right now it's mostly fire roads. There are some trails that go through here. And of course, when you're on the PCT, you get a mix of pretty much everything. I gotta tell you, it's September 3rd. I won't be going on the PCT. If I do go next year, it'll be middle of April, I'm hoping. Permit people permitting. Anyway, so that's 6-7 months. And I am so wanting to be on that trail. I'm exceptionally motivated, which is surprising even for me. I'm the kind of person who, as I get closer to my start date, I start to get really worried, really stressed out, really manic. And, the questions start entering my head. Questions like, how far am I going to make it? Am I going to make it at all? What terrible thing will befall me? And that becomes my focus for those last 24 to 48 hours. I remember the first year that I was on the PCT, that night before, I didn't sleep a single wink. I was so afraid. And in case you are tempted to leave a comment saying there's nothing to be afraid of on the PCT, listen, buddy, I know, I've been there. I mean, the people could not be nicer. And the trail's great. And here comes a jogger. Good morning. There are people who jog this trail. I am not one of them. About 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little more, my doctor told me that I could no longer jog because of arthritis in my neck. Fortunately, my doctor still has allowed me to hike and to cycle. That's my other activity that I'm passionate about, cycling. And you better hope I never get a GoPro that mounts onto a helmet, or you'll start seeing the world's worst road cyclists. And now I've totally forgotten what I was talking about, which happens more often than you might think. Anyway, I drive myself nuts before going out on the trail. The second year I went on the PCT, I did sleep the night before, but I was still really nervous. And bug in my face. The reason I mentioned that that the more you hike, the more you work it into your comfort zone, the more used to it you get, is because as I get more and more hikes under my belt, I realize there's less and less to worry about. I think we're just kind of conditioned in a way to poo-poo hiking. Or maybe it's just the people I surround myself with. Hopefully it's not everybody. So I'll take a turn down this trail, which is called Easy Street. Now, I've never taken Easy Street, so I cannot vouch, but I will say that the trees go really low here. Hi. We're in the wilds of the jungle. So this is not a fire road. As you probably can tell, you see, what you can't see is that I am hunched over and only about 3 feet tall right now. But we're getting out from under the tree, which is good because I can stand. I can't stand not being able to stand. Well, this is interesting. There's a big downed tree. So that's the downed tree. Now this is probably gonna turn out to be a short hike because I've taken Easy Street instead of the trail that I was originally going to take, mostly because I got sick of being on fire roads. This probably will only be about 4 or 5 miles. But that's okay. Hike all the short trails that you want to hike. Hike your 2 mile, hike your 1 mile, hike your 500 feet trail. Just hike what you enjoy hiking. Nobody should ever feel that they're inadequate somehow because they don't hike as far as other people. You want to know my main reason? That's the trail I'm on. You want to know my main reason for quitting the PCT? 2 years ago, my second year, when I got to Lake Campo and I ran into a guy who said, "You want to lift?" All I could think about was all of my obligations at home and everything that I wasn't doing that I felt I should be doing back at home. Basically, don't let anybody judge you, even yourself. If you want to hike, just hike. And if you don't want to hike, don't hike. It sounds like I'm saying do what makes you happy. Because I'm saying do what makes you happy. Live your life and be happy. And that's just about it for me. It was a nice little morning hike through some rather barren landscape, but enjoyable. A little overcast. I probably didn't even need to wear my hat. Woohoo! Good morning. Today is September 10th. It's about 7:30 a.m. About 67 degrees outside. Not bad for hiking weather. We got a little bit of fog, just a touch. This week I'm going on a different route than last. I'm going from the base of this climb up to the top of San Juan Hill. So that means climbing right away. Granted, last time I went up the opposite direction, and that too was climbing right away. But this seems just a bit more difficult. Especially when you just wake up and you're like, okay, let's go climbing. But I know, embrace the suck. And it's not so much embrace the suck. Embrace the suck sounds to me like acknowledging that you hate it. And I don't hate it, because once I get further up, the views, well, minus the fog, the views will be spectacular. So, right now I guess the views are less than that. So what has changed in the week since I last spoke with you? Well, if you're at all hung up on the cut on my lip like I was, catching my breath, then you'll notice that's gone. Yay. I'm not a big fan of mutilation, or whatever the right word would be. Ookie lippy poopies. So, today is a Monday, which is one of the perks of being your own boss, but also a necessary evil, the Monday hike, because this weekend temperatures were in the 90s. Now I know some of you are experiencing autumn just about now, and for those of us in Southern California, this is about as autumn as we get this early in September. Just a wee bit of fog. Oh boy. I like filming myself as I ascend because anybody who's watching this who says, I can't do that, if they're watching this video right now, they must feel mighty silly because I'm doing it. And I'm this close to dying. Your mileage may vary. I'm telling you, it's at moments like this when I think, isn't sitting on the sofa playing Zelda good enough? Apparently not. So a little bit more. Isn't looking at fog fun? Okay, so I still have a bit of a climb. I'll catch up with you in a while. So I just passed the 1 mile mark. Now it's 3 to the top of the hill. You like the fog? 3 to the top of the hill and 3 back. So it's a total of 6. Last week was 4. I'm normally not a big fan of incrementalism, but I certainly am when it comes to hiking. And I noticed my glasses have started to polarize, which tells me that we got plenty of sun even in this fog bank, which, by the way, I love a nice crisp cool fog bank. I love going through a cloud that's nice and crispy and delicious and refreshing. Yeah, this is just muggy. This is just a muggy trail. Whew. So hiking through it, you don't get that refreshing sense. It just weighs on you and makes your clothes wet. Autumn. Just past the 2 mile mark. It's just beyond 3 to get to the top of the hill. So, getting closer, but as you can see, the fog, well, it keeps on being fog, which, with the increasing temperatures, doesn't make for the most pleasurable hiking. It's rather warm, and it's foggy, which is odd. By sometime just before noon, it's supposed to get up into about 80 degrees. So I'm hoping to be down from here before then. I'm hoping the fog clears out by then. However, yes, I'm climbing still. This hike is really good for kicking your butt climbing wise, or I should say it's good for kicking my butt climbing wise. I hiked this trail a lot last year, or I should say earlier this year, when I was getting ready for the PCT, which I inevitably did not take. So you may find some of this familiar. Lots of bunnies on the trail this morning. And I'm about to have a heart attack. See, I used to never film myself climbing because I know how I know that doesn't make for very good viewing. Watching a guy pant, clutch his chest, and fall over. There are times when you go hiking for the sweeping vistas and beautiful views. This is not one of those times. Welcome to the top of San Juan Hill. It's about 1,800 feet, and I started out at, see, the trick here is I'm going to get the measurement when I get back down at the bottom. So it should appear somewhere on the screen. So I started at this. I'm presently at this, which means I gained a total of 3 feet, 4 feet. Oh, that much. Okay, well, that's not so bad, is it? It's 9 a.m. I'm kind of worn out, but it's nice because the clouds are starting to roll away, and you can start to see, you know, some things out there. A few things. And some of those things include my snack, which is a Cliff Bar and all the water I can drink. As long as it's no more than 3 liters, because that's what I'm carrying. But I got here in an hour and a half. After snacking, I'll head back down. And if it takes an hour and a half to get back, it'll be 11:30? No, 10:30. Man, my math sucks. Which means it'll be about a 3-hour hike, which is what I was anticipating. Clouds aside, it's a beautiful morning. And it's nice to be out hiking again. Good evening. Yes, that's right. Good evening. I'm back at Chino Hills State Park and doing the same hike I did last week. The difference being that this is an evening hike. You may have already noticed that the light has changed. It's a bit different. And the views, well, wait till I get higher. They're pretty nice. Okay. Well, I was mistaken. I thought I'd make it up to the top of San Juan Hill. Excuse me. I also thought the temperatures would be cooler. It's actually, as I turn so you can see the sunset, it's actually quite hot, and I know it feels so good. So, hi. Wow. The side of my beard that's in the light looks really, really white. From here, I don't know about when you see it. Anyway, could have to do with the sunglasses. Anyway, hi. You may be wondering about all this, huh? Yeah. Give me just a minute and I'll tell you all about it. Can you believe it's been 1 month since I last recorded? Actually, it's been more than a month. Hold on. Switching hands. It's been more than a month. And I wish I could explain to you in easy terms why it's been a month. But two things. To start with, by the way, to start with, I'm here at the Coves, which is a neighborhood walking path of sorts, I guess you could say. There's a little bit of a lake, and I mean very little, out here. But as I sit down, there have been a couple reasons why I haven't recorded in a month, and the first, the easiest to explain, is the 3-week sentence in jury duty that I served. 3 weeks, all for jury selection. And in the end, I didn't get on the jury. And in the end, I had 3 weeks, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought maybe I'm gonna get on this jury, maybe I won't. But see, that was during the week. That really didn't get in the way of my hiking on the weekends up at Chino Hills State Park. Which takes me to the second and more pressing concern. Whoop. I'm gonna get to the point where I can switch hands and you won't even notice. But that'll be in 2042. The other issue that has stopped me from recording is work related. You may have heard me in one of my road trip videos mention that I'm working on 3 projects, or I was working on 3 projects for release this year. And it saddens me greatly to have to report that 2 of those projects I had to end up junking. I had to end up tossing in the garbage. Now, as a writer, it's my job not just to come up with concepts for new projects, but to value judge them, to test them, to make sure that they're actually projects that would be worthwhile to spend time on. And he said, turning, ooh, sunlight. And I spent the better part of 3 months on these projects. Nice hair sticking up. I spent the better part of 3 months on these 3 projects, July, August, September. And to find out at the end of it that 2 of those projects were crap was disconcerting at best, because I'm supposed to be able to see that well in advance. I'm supposed to be able to see that kind of thing before I decide to actually spend any time on them. So when I spend 3 months writing furiously, because to write 3 projects in 3 months, well, that's not fair. One of the projects was already written, but to write 2 and release another one, that's a whole big bucket of work. So I worked and I worked and I worked, and I took my road trip, and I came back and I worked and I worked and I worked, and only at the very last minute did I look at these projects and realize, oh no, that's not going to work. So I guess you might say I've been in a funk
I've been in a melancholic kind of depression. And then I got on this jury duty and I don't know, things just weren't working. I just wasn't feeling it. And so I spent a lot of time at home just trying to figure out what the hell I was doing with my life. I mean, you may have seen me, and I only think of this because I just released the second to the last road trip video where I was at the city of 10,000 Buddhas. And if you saw that video, you probably saw me lamenting about how all I could think about was to get back to work. And I got back to work. Now, as a writer, as an entrepreneur, these were kind of rookie mistakes. These were kind of the kind of things I should have seen years ago. I should have learned about years ago and had kept in my head so I could tell myself when the time came that I was working on absolute shit, Ken, you're working on absolute shit. But I didn't. So, the backpack is on, and I'm walking through the coves. And this is, as I mentioned, a little walking trail in my neighborhood. It's very pretty. It's just a little thing. But it's very nice, and we appreciate it. And I have been seeing these videos of people getting ready to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And they're going on these amazing hikes. They live in Washington, or they live near the Sierras, or God knows where they live, but they live near hiking trails. And I kind of hate their guts. In a nice way, lovingly. I lovingly hate their guts. Because I would love to be able to hike somewhere where there's, you know, nature. Hey. But, as it turns out, that doesn't quite work for me because I don't have a car and I live in the city. So I've got to figure out ways to, let's say, supplement my hiking. Now, the first year that I tried the PCT, I did it strictly by walking on streets, road walking, as it's normally called. I would throw on a heavy backpack and I would walk and I would walk and I would walk. And when I didn't make it that first year, when I bombed, when I completely dissolved under the pressure of the PCT, I thought it was because I hadn't gone backpacking, and I blamed it on the road walking. Switching hands, whoop. But as it turned out, it had nothing to do with the road walking. As it turned out, both times I've tried the PCT, my, let's say, failure came not because of my training, but because of my mental attitude. Because rather than taking a break, I quit. Okay, so it's November 16th. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon. A little bit of a breeze, a little warm. And before I tell you why I'm here, I should tell you why I haven't been here up until this point. Because, you see, up until this point, I have tried to camp at this campground, which is the closest campground, a little bit of bugs out here, the closest campground to where I live, at least that I could find. So I've wanted to come out here just to find out if I could sleep, because that was the #1 problem I had on the trail, not being able to sleep. So here I am. Now, mind you, I started this video mid-August, late August. It's now November 16th. And I've hiked a few times.
And the last time I hiked was, I want to say, mid to early October. Again, up here, please mention some date. Anyway, cheers. I'm at Chino Hills State Park, where I've been this whole time, more or less. And every time I've come out here to camp, something has gone wrong. There's been rain, and the park closes down when there's a lot of rain, or even just a little rain. There's been wind, and a lot of it. And yes, there have been fires, not at this park, thankfully, but sadly, all around Southern California. My hair is a friggin' mess. He said, even though he's a big fat fuck anyway, it's a very low humidity, so your hair just sucks in this kind of weather. Anyway, so rain, wind, storm, hail, I don't know. But one time after another, I tried to camp here and wasn't able to. Finally, this weekend, Vicky and I were kind of the mind of just drive out there, see what happens, see if we can just you know, drive through the gate and get here somehow. And it's a lovely day. It's a beautiful day. It's about 74 degrees right now, and it's very pretty. There's a few people here, so there's a little bit of noise. But you know how it is when you're camping, and even when there are people around, the silence cuts right through it. You know, the silence hangs in the background, and it's kind of nice. Anyway, so Vicky and I drove down here. I didn't backpack this one. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Not for lack of trying. But this time it was just, you know, it's getting to be late November, and I need to wrap up this video somehow. So here I am, and if you can see it, I don't know if you can see it, that there is my tent there. There's lots of bugs. Excuse me. So, having said all that, it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and I've got about 2 hours until the sun sets. And the early sunset was another thing that stopped me from backpacking out here, because having only one car, I could only get dropped off in the afternoon, and the sun goes down at about 4:30 nowadays, 4:40. So yeah, so a lot of my camping, well, all of my camping and a lot of my hiking are going to be curtailed from this point on, because we're getting into winter, and I'm a pussy. So I tend to slow down a lot of my hiking in winter. But I've got 2 hours until the sun sets, and I've got about 16 hours until morning from there. So here's my plan, okay? And I tell you, sorry, there's bugs everywhere. I tell you this assuming that you, like myself, are interested in backpacking and hiking and camping. And if I can give you a little bit of advice from my own experience, the biggest challenge that I've had coming out here, or getting here, that I've had on the PCT and that I've had in different camping situations when I've been by myself, is simply, that's my jet boil. People wonder what I have in my backpack. I have a jet boil. Yes, it's about 20 times too big, but it's convenient, handy, and oh so nice. So, I don't know. I may outgrow my jet boil at some point, but I haven't yet. Anyway, my big challenge really had very little to do with the hiking. You know, once I was able to slow myself down so I didn't kill myself. After that point, the hiking wasn't so bad. My biggest problem is being able to sleep. And so I've been working not just on getting out in my tent more, but working up here, working on being okay with being alone, because that's not something I ordinarily do well. I'm not really, as much as I am a loner, I'm not really good with being alone. So I've been working on that. I've been slowly over the last few months getting used to the idea of just being here, just being, to be honest with you. And one thing that I've noticed in this process has been that when I've gone backpacking in the past, I'm always very goal oriented. I'm like, let's get to the next stop, let's get to the next turn, let's get to the next point of interest, let's get those miles done. Just get the miles done. It's always about that next thing. Move. Got to get it done. And there's someone back there. And that worked when I was younger, when I had, like, for instance, an office job. When I was working in the corporate environment, it was always move. You got to get things done. But when you're on the trail, it runs counterintuitive, because if you're always if your mind is always on that next goal, when you have moments like this and there's no goal, which happens every day that I've been on the PCT, at least, you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, we're gonna stop here. Well, then you have to be able to somehow live with not doing shit. And for me, that hasn't been easy. I wanted this time to be able to say, can I really handle all of this boredom? So far, I'm okay. I'm looking out at all the countryside, which I think we have some footage of. More bugs. So I've got my jet boil. I have a great big old bag of food, way more than I'll ever need. Not that that matters. I'm not going to cook until about 4, and then I'm not going to go to bed until 8 or 9. I'm going to hang out here. I've got a nice park bench here that I can lay out on, that I can sit at, that I can just hang out at, and while away some of my evening. And I've got snacks. So little by little, I'm gonna get through this night. So I have in this bag, I have my breakfast. I have my breakfast for tomorrow. This is a breakfast skillet, which I bought despite any better judgment or wisdom or anything like that I might have picked up over the years. So that's my breakfast, and hopefully I will survive that. Worse still, though, I don't know if you remember my road trip. If you watched my road trip, my first night in Lake Tahoe, in South Lake Tahoe, I had a hard time finding some place to get dinner, finding any dinner. So I actually had my backpack on me. I had this bag, which had this beef stew in it. And it still has this beef stew in it. And you're thinking, are you seriously going to eat that? Yes, I'm seriously going to eat that. Fortunately, I also have snacks in case that tastes like complete ass. For instance, I've got little gummies. Gummies are good. Gummies are our friend. And there we are. A Pro Bar. This is the Whole Berry Blast. It is my favorite Pro Bar. Some people think these things are disgusting, but I gotta tell you, I really like them quite a bit. Oh, well, Yeah, see, this is why you shouldn't just leave things in your bag. I had a Snickers. And while I will tell you I am completely curious, I don't think I'm that curious. I don't think I'm this curious. This is why you should check your bag every so often, just to make sure that you haven't destroyed everything. Oh well, I got that Pro Bar. So there you go. I've got to figure out how to cook with this again. And here we go. Little information here. So this is kind of like my refresher course. This is kind of like my camper refresher course, but also my opportunity to see if, again, this is something I really enjoy. If this is something I really like. I've been trying to find this out for a couple of years now. Still, the jury is out. I think as I spend more time doing this, I'm getting more accustomed to it. I'm getting more comfortable with it, which is good because I want to be able to see, I want to be able to see this world and interact with this world. And yes, hike on the PCT again in 2019. The date for PCT permits popped up this past week, and sadly I was not able to get one. I will keep an eye on that site, and I will check again on January 15th, and hope for the best. But having done this for a couple of years now, thereabouts, I can tell you that this year was far busier on the permit date than any other year that I've done this. And granted, it's only been a couple, but the first year it was like nothing to get the permit. It was really nothing. And then last year it was a little bit of a hassle, but it's not that bad. And then I didn't go 2018 this year. But for next year, it's unbelievable how many people have little breezy. How many people have applied and have gotten their permits already, and bravo to them. And I'll hope for the best. My tent's right over here, already set up and ready to go. I wanted to do that first because for me, there's nothing worse than setting up a tent in the dark. I just cannot handle that, especially with it being breezy. Because for the first half of setting up my tent, I was also keeping it from blowing away. So being far from home right now, I thought I might take this moment to fill you guys in on what's happening with the writing career, with the writing, and you can, mute this or fast forward it, but I hope you don't. So we just got another great review for Max Edge this week, and I was really happy about that. And a good review came in for Worm Food Island, which is always nice to see. Heaven Denied, the sequel to Heaven Enough, almost has a cover. We're working on the cover. I'm recording the audiobook right now. Well, not right now. Concurrently. Just so you know, my tripod's at a weird angle because I want to show you how I cook. Not that I do it weirdly or different from anybody else, I hope. Anyway, I've opened up my bag of beef stew, and it kind of looks like cat food or dog food, one or the other. So, to cook this monstrosity, I'm going to move my jet boil over a little bit. I need 2 cups of water. There's a line I like the line. The line gives my life purpose. Gives me meaning. And that's all the water I have left for the night. No, I'm kidding. I have plenty more water. Okay, so I haven't done this in some time. I have cooked on the PCT twice, I think. No? Yeah? No, I think just twice. One time I had lasagna, and it was fart lasagna. Yes, there are people here driving by behind me. There's some campers here. It's just a, park and camp kind of thing. Anyway, so I had lasagna once that made me very gassy. That was Mountain House. And then the other time, I can't remember what I had. It was terrible. So let's just say the track record ain't so great. So what I got to do is I've got to find the button. There's the button. I found the button. So I turn on the gas. Oh, come on. So, the ignition, the little button that's supposed to light everything up on this jet boil is not working. So, I hiked on over to one of my fellow campers and asked to use their lighter, and now we have fire. Yay! So let's just see if we got boiling water, because it's been a few minutes. No, but it's very close to it. This jet boil's great, but it really shouldn't have had a problem. I haven't used it that many times, so I'm going to look it up when I get home. But the thing to remember next time I go out is to bring a lighter with me, because you never know. Lighter or matches, because you just never know if it's going to work, Okay, ow, it's boiling. It's steaming. I'm turning the wrong thing off. I almost turned off the phone. Okay. So, what I'm supposed to do is put the water into this bag and then seal the bag, but the bag is not going to seal. So I'll do my level best, and then I'll just let it hang out in there for a while. Oh. Have I mentioned this is hot? Because this is, hot. Okay, so we're just gonna pour this in and try not to get water all over myself, because I don't want to get water all over myself. So it's been a few minutes, and the food is, let's say, cooking. The nice thing about the jet boil is that it packs up so easily. The little thing goes on the bottom, and you just stack everything back inside. Pop a lid on. Kind of pop a lid on. No, that's right. All right, that's fairly okay. And I keep it in this little bag with my spoon, which doubtless is going to get dirty, as will everything. I forgot I used this bag for trash. Okay, so then we pop the bag back in here, or pop the jet boil back in the bag with the spoon, and the eating stuff goes in there. Now, this is really interesting. I'm gonna stir this up to help it congeal. And it kind of looks exactly like you might expect, actually. It's here. It looks rather disgusting, actually, and I've got to wait a while before I can eat it because it's still so hot. But let me give it just a little taste. Little peas and carrots. Here we go. Little peas and carrots for you. That's horrible. That's really bad. Granted, it's not done cooking yet. I gotta close this up because the bugs are back in town, and they're enjoying the smells. Anyway, so I'm gonna choke down about as much of this as I can take, and I'm gonna hang out here. The sun is just about down in the west, and as you can probably tell, the light is getting rather soft. I brought a little flashlight, very little, but kind of bright, a little bit. I have my headlamp in there, but I thought, just since I'm coming straight from home and going back straight to home, this might be a little bit more convenient for finding my way to the bathroom and things like that at night. And there's going to be a lot of night because the sun goes down very soon, just before 5, sometime before 5, and won't come back up again until almost 7. So it's a long night, and clouds are moving in, so I don't know how many stars I'll see. But the important part about all this is being comfortable, just hanging out by myself, eating the crappiest, that's still really hot, eating the crappiest food imaginable with my friends, the bugs. I know it's not exciting, and I wish I could be on the trail right now on the PCT. But it's really weird. There's this serenity here. There's this calm. And my mind is almost, and in a way, happy to have this, just quiet. It's 6 a.m. and I'm sitting here with a rather bruised Snickers bar because my Jetboil isn't working. So, good thing to, did I mention it's a good thing to have a lighter on hand just in case? Anyway, it's, it's 6:30 a.m. on the 18th. Yesterday was the 17th. It's a gorgeous morning. The sun is coming up over the hills over here, which is why I have all the light on my face. But the great news is I slept. I woke up a couple times during the night, but I slept. I have a terrible sore throat because it got really, really cold, but I slept. And I got up, and yeah, I've got my puffy on because it's cold out here. I got up and I've been sitting here and I've been listening to the coyotes barking up in the hills. Okay, so those could have been wild dogs, I'll give you that. And in fact, it could have been a few guys over on the other side of the hill trying their best to doing their best coyote impressions. It could have been, but I think they were coyotes. And we've had birds, and I've heard frogs. It's such a different sound palette, you know? It's so cool. And it's great having slept because I can appreciate how cool it is. I'm not sitting here going, oh my God, I'm gonna die. No, I'm actually enjoying the morning, so it's great. Now I gotta pack everything up again. the two worst parts to camping in a tent are having to pack it all up again, and stepping out of it in the morning. I still haven't figured out a good way of stepping out of the tent that doesn't look like I just had a stroke or I'm drunk. Do you have a good method for stepping out of the tent? Please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, so that was the experiment. It went well. It was really cold. This camping trip was planned for early October. It is now late November. There's snow on the ground in some places in the country. Probably not the best time of year to put everything in my backpack and go camping. And get sick. There's something always happens. There's always something. Anyway, but thanks for being with me on all these hikes. Thanks for being the little accompaniment I've had. Whenever I get bored or something, I just pull out the camera and talk to you. So, thank you.
And there you have it. You've just survived another Ken LaSalle video. For more information about new releases, projects in the works, or even stuff from the archives, head on down to kenlasalle.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and all around social media, just as long as it's called Facebook or Twitter. Thanks for your support, as always. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll be back soon with more nonsense.